Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Bible in 1 year with the preacher's husband. Today we're talking about Numbers chapter 26 and chapter 27, and it's all about numbers today. Who'd have thought? Numbers in numbers, right? There's a census. We're talking about the census, and here we are. Numbers chapter 26 is the second census of Israel. Now, verses 1 and 2 are very similar to verses 1 and 2 of chapter 1, where the first census was mandated. Now, the first census took place at the foot of Mount Sinai in the wilderness. Now, the second one here is at the doorway of the Promised Land in the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. Now, more than 38 years had passed since that first census was taken, so let's keep that in mind here. Now, during that time period, once they started counting these folks, the tribes of Simeon declined by 37,100 people. That's a big loss. The Naphtali declined by 8,000 people. And they had pretty much, those were the two that suffered the most losses in their militias during the wilderness era. And the tribe of Simeon would eventually dissipate into the tribe of Judah, within whose territory they were given allotments later on. Now, Manasseh increased by 20,500 people, Asher increased by 11,900 people, and Issachar increased by 9,900 people. Now, those were the three tribes that reaped the most benefit from the second census. They had more people. They actually gained numbers. But overall, there was a net decrease of, get this, 1,820 warriors. Now, I was astounded that's all there was. That's all they lost. That there was only a net loss of 1,830. You would think 39 years in the wilderness, going through the desert. You'd think with all the diseases that they faced, 38 years, with all the diseases that they faced and all the different times that they denied God, they worshipped other gods, they refused to do what God says, and they were punished over and over and over again with multiple deaths. Sometimes hundreds, sometimes thousands of people died at a time, being punished by God because of their just not doing what God told them to do. I'm just shocked that that's all they lost, but turned out to be pretty well for them. These registered Israelite men numbered 601,730. So, the land, in verse 52, it says, the Lord spoke to Moses, and the land is to be divided among them as an inheritance based on the number of names. So that's the purpose of this census, is to be able to get the number of names so God would know how to distribute the land. The more land went to the larger tribe. So more people, more land. Smaller amount of people, smaller amount of land. Because they had to have a certain amount of land to support each person. So that was the reason why they would do that. And the lands were going to be divided by lot. Now, this refers to a second principle governing land allocation. Providential probability, as expressed through a game of chance. It's kind of a game of chance, but not really. The Lord was presumed to oversee the casting of the lots, though, and that was bringing his decision to pass. We're going to see more about this in Proverbs chapter 16 later on. Specifically, verse 33 is going to be the main portion of that. The casting of lots was actually a common means of determining the will of God. Now, in a manner similar to the first census, the second numbering of the Levites separately from the militia follows the genealogical pattern of verses 5 through 52. Now, the census of the second generation militia concludes with a reminder to the people of the consequences of rebellion. So now we're going to move into chapter 27. Now, chapter 27 was a case. This is a law case. This is a case of a daughter's inheritance, because here we are in a patriarchal society, and land is divided up and passed down through generations through the men, not the women typically. But here we're going to start out in chapter 27, verse 1, and only male descendants were registered by patriarchal lineage in the census, of course. According to the Levite law, In a case where a man died without a male heir, a male relative could redeem the land and keep it within the clan. This account is an example of case law development early in Israelite history. Number 1, the specific case was presented to the leaders at the entrance of the tabernacle. Then number 2, an appeal was made by the leader to divine legislative authority. And then number 3, a precedent-setting decision was issued, accompanied by principles derived from the case. Now, in verses 2 through 5, the daughters of Zelophehad were concerned that their family, lacking a male heir, would be passed over and their patriarchal ancestral name would be forgotten. The daughters sought status and inheritance rights with the Macharites clan of the Manasseh tribe. So later the Macharites received an inheritance in the Gilead region of the Transjordan. That's going to be in Numbers chapter 32, verses 39 through 42 when we get there. The decision in the case, what Zelophehad's daughters say is correct, God said, set forth in the days of Moses in the 2nd millennium BC and fulfilled by Joshua in the land distribution, that's in Joshua chapter 17, 3 through 6, was still in force more than 500 years later. So this is a case law, and it sets a precedence that what the daughters say, they can inherit land, but it's going to go through other men in their tribe, and those daughters would be distributed. They're not given this land direct, from what I understand, the way this read, is they didn't give the land directly to the women, but it goes to the next male heir. It would go to a son. If there wasn't a son, it would go to a brother. If there wasn't a brother, it would go to an uncle, and those daughters would get the land through those males. So they would be able to live on those properties that way. So then we get to verses 12 through verses 23 in chapter 27. And this is Joshua being commissioned to succeed Moses. And the Lord replied to Moses in verse 18, "Take Joshua, son of Nun, a man who has the Spirit in him, and lay your hands on him. Have him stand firm before the priest Eleazar and the whole community, and commission him in their sight. Confirm some of your authority on him so that the entire Israelite community will obey him. He will stand before the priest Eleazar, who will consult the Lord for him with the decision of the Urim. He and all the Israelites with him, even the entire community, will go out and come back in at his command." This begins the formal transfer of leadership from Moses to Joshua. Now I'm reminded of many different government structures throughout the world today where they have a leader, so to speak, like Joshua or Moses, who is their leader, like their governor or their president or even their emperor in different places. But separately, they have a leader of the church, which, like the Catholic Church, has the Pope. We have bishops in our church, but many, mostly just think about Rome. You know, they have their own town there, and they own their own governor, but they also have the Pope, who is the leader of the religion of that area. So it's kind of interesting how that same structure plays out in multiple countries, even today. Seems pretty legit to me. What do you guys think? Is there anything that I skipped over and missed out that you want to talk about? Put it in the comment section. Let's talk about it. Now, tomorrow we're going to talk about Numbers chapter 28, 29, and 30. So, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Click that like button, that subscribe button, and of course, click the little jingle bell so you can get notified the next time I upload a video. And I hope to see you again tomorrow. Peace.